So Chop, I was showing Dreadbull. I've got postcards for each of you. I got the two more postcards came in from Jag Panzer
Oh,
because Mark sent
wow.
three my way because I didn't get the previous one. And as I was showing Mark, um, this one this one opens up. It opens up and it's got a little message. Can you read it?
Uh,
Get yourself a bigger phone or a computer, you motherfucker. And then it has
Let me
has
put on my reading glasses.
a hidden message, but you've got these goggles that you can read the hidden message with.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's fucking
How
sweet.
amazing is that?
Yeah, well, all I have to say is when you read the message, you're gonna want to listen to the album again.
Oh,
Because
great.
there's
Wow.
oh, well, I gotta find this now.
That's
So
so great.
you guys, each of you have one now. So
I did a lot of research on this and I took a lot of notes as I'm watching through them. So,
well, that's good.
yeah, can't wait to talk about it. So,
I didn't even watch them. So
Yeah, I've got a couple pages of notes.
yeah, that's great. You guys can carry the load. I just wrote who I thought won each one.
Your answers are going to be the Howling.
That's right.
It's
Lindsay.
all right, Montag. We'll carry the show again.
Rewatchability. American Werewolf in London.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am done with this one.
Yeah.
Move on to the next
Little
one.
facts.
What
Yeah.
is the
Look
winner?
and feel. Tie.
I'm not doing a chop top. All right, guys.
I don't think I'm going to have that in this one, guys.
Well, it's about damn
You're
time.
not allowed to have that.
Yeah.
You're never allowed to have
Yeah,
a
no
tie.
more
Not allowed
ties.
to have a draw again.
No more ties, man.
You
Nut
have
up
to
or
make
shut
a
up.
decision.
There were some slim margins on this one, though. I have to say there was some. This was a tough battle in some of the areas, but we'll get to that.
Huh.
So here we go.
Hey, this is Kern Murphy from Shatter Messiah, and you are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
I am Montag, Master of Illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, this is Chop Top, and I hope you'll howl at this one. Keep it heavy.
And that's right. It's me, Dreadbull, at a horror show. You're welcome.
I know, it's crazy, kiddies.
You're welcome.
And you are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, that's right, kiddies. Dreadbull's joining us. Dreadbull is joining us. We're busting his horror cherry. It's about time. Time to put those
Oh, you're going to make it awkward already.
No. How long have you known me?
Great.
When have I ever made it awkward?
Right?
All right, kids.
What have you not?
Exactly. How much time do you have? All right, kiddies. We are doing. You've been watching and listening. Our Slugfest format where we take two albums and we discuss track by track by track until we come up with a winner. We're doing the same thing with horror, except we're doing two movies. That's right. Oh, we're talking about different elements of the movies, and we're going to go element by element. It's going to be a big slugfest, and tonight's slugfest, we've got two lycanthrope loopers. We've got The Howling versus American Werewolf in London. Yes, now a little background. Both of these movies came out in 1981. The Howling, March of 1981, and American Werewolf in August of 1981. So there, if you've not seen these movies, better go out and check them out. Shame on you, because guess what? You're going to get some spoilers. So here it goes, Howling. All right, so round one is going to be a story. We're going to look at the story of the two movies. So round one, yeah, no, that's going to be a great bell sound. Ding, ding. Okay, Chop, let's talk about the story. The Howling versus an American Werewolf in London.
All right. Well, for story, an American Werewolf in London, I thought was definitely heavily influenced by Universal's Wolfman. Had almost like the same story, except instead of, the father is being sort of like we'll talk about ends up killing the Wolfman. It ends up being, this love interest of the main character in American Werewolf. Basically, what American Werewolf.
The Beast.
Yeah. I thought also interesting thing I thought about this was I wondered if the Jack scenes in the movie, his friend that got killed on the moors and whatever, I wonder if that influenced Pet Cemetery in that same way for Stephen King. Because he had
that's
lost.
right.
Uh,
I couldn't
yeah,
remember
he
the
lost
other
his
movie
first
that had happened in, but
yeah, I really
okay.
thought
Yeah,
about
you
that.
brought that up.
Pascal, the other girl. Yeah, Pascal.
Pascal, yeah, and I thought maybe that influenced him in his writing for that. I thought the Blue Moon music intro was
Hey, you're
Tim
going too far.
Mhm.
We're doing music score as a whole other thing.
Sorry. Okay.
Come on,
all
keep
right,
the
sorry.
focus.
Stick with the
Chop.
story.
Story.
All right.
My
Hey, well, it's
God.
interesting in the story. Like, it's about these guys going on a trip to England. They're around the moors or whatever. They
Stay off
end
the
up,
moors.
Stay off
Yeah.
them. Stay on the road.
right, and they end up going off, into the moors, and Jack gets
Stupid
fatally
Americans.
Yep.
attacked. Jack gets
Can't
fatally
do
attacked,
anything
and the
right.
other one gets bitten, mauled, and eventually he's cursed.
Didn't you see how creeped out all those people were? Come on, listen to them.
Now
Always listen to the creepy locals.
Right.
Now the story for the Howling, it's this undercover news lady. She meets this possible serial killer. Has been getting calls or whatever. She gets attacked in this
Story.
porn booth theater.
Yeah. I think he meant
She's
to say we
traumatized.
need to regurgitate the entire summary of the plot, but that's okay. Keep on going, Chop.
Sorry, guys.
That's so all the
And then
anyway, she's
in the
traumatized.
fourth minute of the films,
That's it. I'm
this
done.
is what happens. By minute 7.
Sorry, guys. But
and
she's
then we
traumatized.
pan down.
Yes,
We show a
camera
wide
pans
shot.
down to a long shot where we see 2 exhausted
That's
hikers,
what I get.
but
That's
they're
what I
not
get for
on
being
the
on this
road.
show.
No wonder
y'all
he
like
was
to
late
listen.
to the show. He wrote
Yeah.
a
I can't
synopsis
even.
of the whole
He's
a
writing the
fucking word
sun-
edgewise.
He's
Thanks
writing
a
the
lot.
summaries up of the movies.
Son of a bitch. Throw my notes away.
All right, continue, Chop.
We've
Yes.
already broke him.
Yeah,
We've
I was
broken
gonna
him.
say
that was quick.
So the news lady's traumatized.
He's
Ends up doing
weak.
this therapeutic retreat known as the colony. It's almost an environmental kind of living area and stuff. Later to find out that it's not all what it seems. Basically, it's a community full of lichens. So I thought overall, I did appreciate the story of American Werewolf because it was inspired. Obviously, I saw a lot of things to Universal's Wolfman. And Landis is a known Universal Monsters fan himself, said many times. But I do think The Howling has a fresher take at that time story because it's doing something a little different. It's not following that kind of the same thing as Universal's Wolfman. So this round goes for me, and story goes to The Howling.
All right. Speaking of the Howling, I see Sir Reginald.
Speaking of a
Yes.
wolf man, look at that. Look at that fierce
The
countenance.
star of the
Yes.
show right there.
Oh man, look at him going for my throat, licking his lips.
Yeah.
He's ready to rip my throat out.
Oh, Reggie.
Yes. With his violent cuteness.
Yeah, look at him. Oh man.
All right. Very, very nice, Chop. Okay, Dread. How about you? Story.
Story. Okay. Yeah. Boy,
Scene 1.
Scene 1. We open on a broad shot of the moors. Gray, rainy England. Blue moon plays in the background.
Hey, I got yelled at for talking about the story already. Stick to the story.
So story, yeah. The Howling. Oh man. Okay, we're not into script yet. So story,
Nope.
yeah.
Story. Just
The
story.
story itself, I kind of agree with you, Chop, that it was a little more interesting, different of a take on the horror, on the story. Like I thought American Werewolf in London was kind of tropey in the story. You know, these guys from out of town show up in this little village. You know, they hit the pub, of course. They get all the weird looks. The place
The
goes
slaughtered
quiet.
lamb.
Everybody's all on edge, and they have these little cryptic warnings, and it was all very tropey. It was a kind of, it had some charm to it, but it was very tropey. Yeah. So the Howling, I think overall story wise was a little more interesting of a take on the werewolf story. We'll get into script later. That's where everything falls apart, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Yeah, I think I agree with you overall. I think just purely story wise, I'm going to give the edge to the Howling.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I feel the same way you guys did. I both movies are very different animals, so to speak. um, and I agree, Chop. The American Werewolf in London, it definitely borrows a lot from the Universal, and it's like watching a fresh take on the Wolfman, which we did
Mhm.
see later on when Universal actually did the Wolfman again.
Yeah.
But you still have that same, like, here's some guy who gets bit and follows the same things. And the Howling does something very interesting. I like the concept of this kind of collective, this kind of colony where these werewolves are trying to deal with being lycanthropes, and it's almost like this kind of self-help, group or the collective, like this, with this guru psychology, kind of new agey kind of stuff, like, I'm okay, you're okay, we're both werewolves,
Yeah.
and trying to deal with this, and also kind of bringing in this kind of feral, almost native, like a native tribalism within the community, and
Mhm.
then you see that morning. Well, yeah, we'll get into the script details later, but and the generational, the older werewolves looking on how things have changed. So I think there was enough there to make it different. So I agree. From my vote too on as far as story and plot goes to The Howling.
Although I would say,
Understood.
like, I felt the story was kind of really disjointed. It jumped around
Oh yeah,
quite a bit with abruptly. Like once, yeah. First of all, like their their idea of like luring out this serial killer, essentially, they didn't really tell you why he was so enamored with this newscaster, other than he
right.
liked
We're
her
just
voice.
thrust right
She
in.
had a
He's
nice,
right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
and like they stick her out all by herself with just like this scratchy radio signal to communicate with her. Nobody's got eyes on her at all. So, hey, go out. We're going to lure in this serial killer. Nobody's going to actually be within visible range of you,
Hmm.
and she ends up on her own. The cops eventually catch up.
In a
I don't
porn
know,
Being in a
theater.
porn
in
booth.
a porn
Yeah,
Right.
theater.
Which we're going to see a nice parallel
I'm
between
like,
both
this is the
movies.
worst like
absolutely.
sting operation I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Uh,
fully expected them to be like staked out inside the
right.
theater. That would have made more sense.
And
They're
Yeah.
just waiting for them
yeah,
to come in. Yeah.
and they're basing it out of like the news station. They're in the news station and they're little like the
Hmm.
cops have hardly nothing to do with this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, this lady's gonna die and it's gonna be all your fault. Like you guys are a bunch of
Right.
bumbling idiots.
Even
So I thought
her
that was really
husband's
weird.
in there as well, and it's just like I'd be fucking like, that's my
Yeah,
wife. I want to. You're
yeah.
gonna get this shit
I'll be
staked
out
out
on the
right. This is
street,
not.
like hanging out, keeping my eyes on her, like within, you know,
Right. Have
short.
plainclothes policemen, have people walking around that are milling about, that are on guard. Have a SWAT team set up across the street.
Yeah.
Something.
Instead, they're
That's
like,
a
oh,
great
all the
point, Fred.
neon lights are messing with the radio signal. Like, oh
Yeah,
Right.
my God,
Yeah,
this is the
exactly.
most
Yeah.
it's a
Oh no,
great
haphazard.
no.
point, Fred.
There's
Makes sense.
there
Yeah.
are good flaws to it, but there's enough to the originality that persuades me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if I had never seen the Wolfman, I would be going toward American Werewolf in London, because
Right.
but we've seen these. This is, the Wolfman 1941. This is it's almost like the 40th anniversary of movie revision of that movie. But no, I get it. There are definitely flaws,
Yeah.
in it, but I still thought there was originality. Like I wanted to root for American Werewolf, but it's like I think there's enough here that's different that made it interesting. Now,
Well, they're two
how,
different beasts.
they're
No
very
pun
two
intended.
different movies, right? It's
Because
now,
American Werewolf's comedy horror, Montag, and this is
well,
like pure horror and Howling.
that's going.
Until you
Now
get
we're
to the
getting
end.
into the script. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about that. So let's talk about the comedy, Chop Top, with the script. The script comes down to the writing. We have John Landis, who wrote American Werewolf in London, and John Sayles wrote The Howling.
So you
Um,
gave story to the Howling, Montag,
I
just to
did. Yeah,
be
yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Round one goes to The Howling.
Okay.
Okay, now let's talk about the
Want to make
script.
it official.
Yeah,
Okay.
official.
Script time.
So we're going to talk about the script now. This is round two script. So, okay, Chop, let's talk about the humor versus the not humor.
Well, what I have in script as far as my notes from America, a modern day retelling of the Wolfman with some humorous moments with a tragic ending, but it's anticlimactic because at the end,
Boy,
of course,
was it ever.
yeah, because he just cowered in this like alleyway. Cops are all showed up and everything. His love interest is there, kind of tries to persuade him, come on, it's me, whatever. and then he gets shot, and it's over.
And they open
Uh,
up on him with her standing right between them
Right.
and the wolf, and they just start wailing bullets all over the place with
Yeah,
her
and I'm like,
standing
no,
right
are
there.
those silver bullets? They never say if they are or not.
Right.
So I'm just like, wow, okay, whatever. But it was just over at that. I'm like, wow, kind of anticlimactic,
Terrible
especially
ending.
after that amazing rampaging scene in Piccadilly Circus.
A
So
much better porn movie, in my opinion.
It was.
Yeah.
so
The porn movie had comedy as well.
It was
know?
hilarious.
Yeah.
oh yeah, and some of those humors, I really humorous that porn theaters, he's talking to Jack, and then all the victims of the wolf, are telling him to kill himself in different ways. A lot of humor with that as well.
Mhm.
I thought, obviously, comically at the beginning, the slaughtered lamb. I mean, come on, that pub that they go into. So it's kind of right there, open to you. As far as script on The Howling, I thought it was a well-written adaptation of a book, because it's based on a novel by Gary Bradner. The pacing lulls a little, but I think the dream sequences keep it going enough so you don't kind of falter or get behind on that. And again, this had a climactic ending, though, so as opposed to the way it was written with American Werewolf, because in the end, Karen, the reporter, turns into a wolf on camera and gets shot, silver bullet. So, but script overall, this was difficult. I can't make a draw, so
That's right.
I am going
You
to say,
waffling bastard.
And we'll kick you in the nuts next time we see you.
again, guys,
Pick a nut. Oh, you can't pick? We'll kick them both.
I'm I'm going to go with the Howling on script, believe it or not,
All
because
right.
Wow.
again, it's a different take on. I guess maybe just because of, I love the Universal Wolfman,
Mhm.
but it's that kind of same kind of script in there. I do appreciate the humorous elements, but when I watch a horror movie, because I do like horror comedies, Montag, we did a whole show on that as well,
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
We love them, but I guess it depends on whatever mood you're in, and most times I'm going to direct horror, for me. So I'm going to give script to The Howling.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Red
You are
Bull.
so wrong, because the script in The Howling was fucking awful. Was boring.
Wow,
as
Dreadbull
shit.
swearing. Nice.
Like,
Wow.
it was boring as hell. Like, it was so utilitarian. Like, let's just have them say the most basic generic things they can say in this scene. Like, it was like they wrote it on the fly, or it was all ad-libbed. Like, none of the dialogue had any character development or banter between characters. It was all so dry and generic. It was awful. I just found it so freaking boring. And so this also, I was going to bring this up on the story section too, but has there ever been a more useless main character in a movie than the Howling, than Karen? She is awful. Like, she does nothing on her own behalf the entire movie. Think about it. What does she ever do? She has one thing that she did this entire movie that gave her any agency in her own story. And that was somehow when she gets trapped in the doctor's office in the colony, and somehow there's a jar of acid sitting on a table.
Yeah.
That she happens to know
Right.
it's acid, and she
Of
chucks
course.
it on him and then runs away.
It's a clear
That's
liquid.
the only thing she did in the entire movie to help herself. Otherwise, she's just this like traumatized woman that just cries and has to get led around by everybody else, get saved by everybody else. And basically what I thought they did was take her story, what should have been hers, was like uncovering who this serial killer is and the truth about this colony, and they gave it to those other two reporters who just pop in out of nowhere after she leaves for the colony. Suddenly we've got two other people from the news station that decide they're going to be investigative reporters and look into this story. And so they do everything that really her and her husband should have done in the movie and had some agency in their own story.
Yeah.
Like, and it would have been much more tense had they uncovered the truth of these things.
His agency is getting laid.
Yeah, all he's just out banging. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just thought she was the most annoying ass, useless character, and she was the main character. She's supposed to be the protagonist of the whole movie, and she was utterly useless the whole time. I mean, even the other lady, the reporter woman, with her friend, she'd like chop the arm off of the one werewolf. she shoots another. Like she's kicking some ass out there.
Yeah.
Why wasn't any of that given to the main character? Like
She's
they
no
took it away
Ripley.
from her. Oh my God, no! She was wimply. So that just annoyed that totally annoyed me the whole entire movie.
I
I
can't
was so
tell if it
annoyed by her
annoys you.
character.
Yeah.
So
She's very passive, you know, and
Yeah.
she's very quiet in real life too. Dee Wallace is
Yeah.
very, very
Mhm.
shy and kind of reticent.
I met
Very
her,
sweet,
yeah.
a sweet person. Yeah, she was at Gallardi Fest. Very, very lovely person. Very generous and gracious, you know.
I'm advocating on her behalf. Like, give her a little bit more, you know,
Yeah, you know what? She also plays a
of
victim
a
in
role in the
she plays a
movie.
victim in Cujo too. A couple years later,
Yeah.
she's stuck in a car and a dog is trying to eat her.
But
Well,
she has a little more fire in that role.
Yes,
She's
she
a bit
does.
more, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, she had
So-
nothing in this one. Like I said, she happened
Yeah.
across the jar of acid. I don't know how. And I will say, in the car when they're getting away, she does fire the gun once, and I think hit a werewolf. And that's it. Like that's literally the only two things she was able to do the entire movie.
Except at the
helped her
very
own
end,
cause.
where she wants to bring a light upon this reality of who she is as a werewolf, and she changes. On
Oh
the
yeah,
camera, which is
and she
kinda cool.
turns into a chihuahua, or no, like she
Yeah,
turned
like
into a Pekingese.
Yeah, like a little whimpering,
the
like
stupidest
whimpering,
looking
like what? I'm
werewolf.
like, what is this? Wait a minute, a Dee Wallace werewolf.
Here's
She's
this
kind of
little
cute.
flat-nosed Pekingese
Let's take
werewolf.
her
It looks
home.
awful.
Yeah, it was-
So yeah. Anyway, I thought the dialogue was boring as hell. I thought like the first 10 minutes of American Werewolf in London had more charm to it than the entirety of the Howling. Like at least those characters had some fun banter.
They were friends. You could tell they were
Yeah.
friends because they broke each other's balls. They had fun.
Even though it was tropey, like the people in the
Right.
pub were fun to listen to.
You made me miss. Right.
And there was some comedy to it. So there was at least some layers to the dialogue in American Werewolf in London. It was still kind of tropey, but it had a charm to it, I think. And I wasn't so annoyed by it. It was still pretty generic. I thought the main actor, David Naughton, I think is his real name,
Yeah.
was pretty boring. I thought his range was bad, at least in the first half. I thought his acting got way better later. We'll cover that, I think, as a later category.
yes.
But so
All
yeah,
right.
script hands down goes to American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
My
Well-
God, you're so wrong, Joe.
Chop,
chop, I should
I am
say.
the I am the tiebreaker, and I
The
bring my
tiebreaker.
great base of knowledge and intelligence and wisdom to this situation.
Oh, here we go.
A tie. No. John Sayles wrote the Howling. John Sayles wrote Lone Star, which is a brilliant movie. He wrote a Passion Fish. He's written a lot of things, but John Landis wrote American Werewolf in London. John Landis wrote The Blues Brothers. He wrote
Animal
Stick
House.
with comedy.
Animal House. Yeah, a lot of comedy. And so I really like the humor in American Werewolf in London. I agree with you, Dreadbull. Dee Wallace is a weak character in that she doesn't really do a lot for herself, but she is traumatized. It's an essential part of her character, though. She's going to the retreat because she is so traumatized. She's seeing this doctor because she's
I get
having
that.
this trauma. So
Yeah.
so that could be part of it. She could just be playing it a little too well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other things don't make sense. But in American Werewolf in London, I love the relationship between Jack and David. You know, I that even continues after the guy's dead. You know, come on, David, come on, you got to kill yourself. You
Yeah.
know, and the characters are kind of quirky and funny. Jenny Aguilar is great as a nurse. I mean, who would not want her to be your nurse? I thought there, you know, not to get into the memorable scenes, but there are moments of comedy that are just shine that we will talk about in the memorable scenes and lines. But I think the comedy really steals us, and not every horror comedy movie blends the two well together, because there are moments of genuine horror in this movie, especially the dream sequences. I think are uniquely terrifying. The scene with the Nazis, which we'll get into the memorable scenes. But those are
Funny
those
too.
are those are elements where we have real terror. So for me, hands down, the script easily goes to John Landis, American Werewolf in London, for me on this one. So all right, round
right.
3 is what we're
There we
calling
go.
look and feel, the mise-en-scene, or the kind of general look, the impression of the film. We're taking into consideration the direction, the cinematography, how the film looks, how the movies look and
Tone.
you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna work through this. You know, we're not film analysts to a degree, but we've all seen enough movies that we can bring something to bear. So, round 3, Chop. Let's talk about the look and feel of both of these lycanthrope movies.
Oh, definitely. Totally polar opposite look and feel as far as these movies. I think it's interesting as far as the tone for each film. And American Werewolf starts at the slaughtered lamb, and you got they're all secretive and quiet and all this stuff and feel offended. And so then they go ahead and they, you know, uh, they go out and they don't stay on the path. They go on the moors. But it's light, it's playful at times. As far as direction, the only thing I give criticism for, I think, in American Werewolf is some of those attack scenes are so abrupt, you don't fully see the attack or the scene. It's just like
It's like a loud noise that transitions into a noise of a bus or something, like into another scene instantly.
Right.
Yeah, I get you there.
But I think he succeeds on the one-on-one dialogue really well. I think the scene.
Hey, that was script. No, go ahead, man.
No, I mean, well, I think
I know we're just figuring it all out.
the direction of
Sure.
when they're
Right.
conversing.
No, I agree.
The transformation scene. Come on, fucking epic. It's in all anybody horror files.
That's special effects.
That's memorable scenes.
Son of a bitch!
We're all over the place. God
Okay.
damn it! Someone's got to know what they're doing here.
Okay, here's direction I thought was a shining moment in there in American Werewolf. The escalator scene where the guy's in the subway trying to get away and the wolf comes into view right at the bottom of the escalator. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah,
and that was really the only time we saw it, like the full wolf kind of moving.
Yeah.
You know, they were very sparse in showing that because it was probably really tough to make that look good. And
because it was just just the upper torso of the wolf.
Kind of,
And then we have like wolf vision. You know, we're seeing like scenes from the wolf and like point of view of the wolf, which is kind of cool.
And I like some of the the move-ins on some of the scenes on some of the kills. So I thought that was effective as well.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, you got the Howling. It's dark, it's serious, it's very little comedy. There's a sense of dread though, with some urgency in it for the main lead. So I get that. Joe Dante directed this. We did Gremlins 2, etc. Darkly lit, even in some of the daytime scenes, I noticed that. So you're taking that tone, that overall, that dark and very little comedy and seriousness, and you can tell in the lighting, and with the camera work and stuff. Very effective. Like right down here, can't remember my own damn writing.
You ever heard of typing things up?
Very, very, very effective close-up scenes, and especially when the characters are conversing with each other. But then all the different scenes of the wolf that we see in the Howling, very effective on the direction in that. So that said, I'm going to go with the Howling on direction on this. I just think it's, and again, we're talking about tone. We're talking about, you got a horror comedy as opposed to just serious horror with very little comedy. And it's just like, I'm going to go more towards that. But I really do like the close-up scenes. And I think there's more scenes we get to see the werewolves and stuff, as opposed to American Werewolf. I mean, we have that one iconic scene, and that's it, pretty much. So yeah, mine goes to the Howling as far as
very nice. All right, Chop. Dread, your take on the look, feel, tone of the movie.
Yeah, I liked like American Werewolf in London. I liked the opening. I liked starting out in these bleak hills, out in the moors, out in the middle of nowhere, was pretty cool. So I'm kind of a sucker for horror set in those settings, or like Sleepy Hollow or some kind of gothic setting are always cool. So I liked that. I think American Werewolf in London did a better job, like spending time putting you in the setting, feeling the setting. But although, the Howling, the one thing I'll say with them, I think they did an interesting thing at times, contrasting it, like emotions in a single scene. Like, he's talking to his dead, rotten friend in the porn theater while porn is playing, like this comedic porn. is going on. So you got these really weird contrasting comedy, sex, and horror all at one time. So, and they did that. Oh, man, I wish I did not write down the other time they did it, but I think multiple times in that movie they were kind of hitting like contrasting emotions all at one time. And I thought that was pretty interesting. That was one thing they did really well in that movie. Yeah. So, boy, which one is better? Yeah, that's a tough call. I like them both. I think I think I'm going to give it to the Howling because I thought it was more creative in the tone and the way they set their tones, and
Mhm.
like you said, sort of it was darker even during the day, like these
The film stock looks dark.
nasty, in these nasty
Yeah.
theaters and stuff like that. When they were in the
Yeah.
colony, that
Grimy.
you're in the woods, everything's grimy. Yeah. So, American Werewolf in London was more of a straightforward look at that, a more straightforward take on a
Right.
tone and setting. So I thought Howling was more creative in that way. So yeah, I think for this category, I'm going to give that to the Howling.
You're right.
Look and feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you were
Chalked up.
right on that one finally.
All right. Well, we're going to finish our circle jerk here. No, I agree. They are vastly different in how they approach the material, and I do like both of them for what they do. By necessity, the Howling, because it is more straightforward horror, is going to be darker, and I like that just as much as I like the kind of garishness of American Werewolf in London, where it's set more in the mundane, because we're following David as he becomes this wolf. So it's just a normal life, and then things turn topsy-turvy because he changes, but then his life is kind of still like he's not knowing what's going on. So there's not a whole lot of need, unless we're in his point of view, like the dream sequences where he's like chasing the deer and those kinds of things, for the film to take liberties with the look and the tone. The set's interesting. We'll talk about the memorable scenes. We've already talked about the porn theater. Those things I think are different than the look and tone. So as far as a horror film goes, I agree with the both of you. I think The Howling does a better job with creating a sense of this tone of dread, of darkness, of mystery, because we kind of know what's going to happen in American Werewolf in London. We've seen the Wolfman. We know he's been bit. We know he's going to come back. There are enough unique surprises that come along through the script, with his friend coming back and visiting all the people who he's killed, that make it unique and fun. But as far as the tone goes, I think The Howling, because it follows more into the horror aspect of it. So I'll agree with you both. I think The Howling has to win on the look and the feel.
Okay.
All right.
I think one thing I'll say about American Werewolf, though, I think that the pacing probably wins out a little bit more than The Howling, because you never get really bored. It just kind of continues to go. There's no really lull in there. And
I agree.
think because we have those scenes with Jack in there, in the comedy element, and I think that helps keep the pacing.
The Howling feels more like a carryover from the 70s, and as far as this pacing goes. And I mean, we're right on the cusp. I mean, the film was shot in 1980, so we are on the cusp of the 70s. So that's very, very likely. Here we have some residue coming over that says we're going to have the film. The pacing is going to be a little slower, but I don't mind that. If I'm sitting down to watch a movie, I enjoy the journey. So I'm happy to watch that, because that's why I'm in. I'm basking in the whole where we're at, the mise-en-scène of it all, and I'm totally cool with that. So. All right. Well, 3 rounds down. Dreadbull, what's the score? And
we're 2 rounds to 1 for the Howling so far.
All right. Well,
they win for story and look and feel.
Okay, we are 1/3 of the way through this slugfest. Round 4 is going to be performances. We're going to talk about the acting performances between the actors. So round 4, chop top. Let's talk about performances in The Howling and American Werewolf.
I thought the acting in American Werewolf was decent. I really liked the interaction between Nurse Price and David throughout the story.
I bet you did, with your sock in hand.
I really did. Yeah,
that's right.
I really like Nurse Price. But then Jack, I think, stole the show. His character was just outstanding.
Come on,
Um,
man. Look at me. Yeah. I won't
Yeah,
spoil. I
I
won't
really
spoil the
like that.
memorable lines. That's coming
I
up.
know. I want to.
Yep.
But then the acting was wonderful. I couldn't believe the great cast they put together on Howling. Just like Patrick McNay.
Slim
Kevin-
Pickens shows up,
Yeah,
of course,
right.
the
Yeah,
Southern
Blazing Saddles.
sheriff.
Yeah. Kevin
Yeah.
McCarthy, Dee Wallace,
John Carradine.
Dick Miller. Yeah, John
Yeah,
Carradine.
Dick
I
Miller.
was like, wow.
All right, it's a crazy good cast.
So man, and I don't know. I thought the acting let's put Dee Wallace's character aside because I think it was deliberate because she was traumatized and that's how she was supposed to be in that film. But the cast was an amazing ensemble to get together for on a budget. This movie was on a budget of $1 million. I researched.
Yeah, like 1.7. It wasn't very much.
Right. And I was just like, wow, to get that cast together and you had a $1.7 million budget, it's
Yeah.
kind of amazing to me. And
It
I thought,
made like 10 times its money in the return. Made like 18 million,
Yeah.
17 some million.
yeah, 17,985,000 I got.
Yeah.
But I really like the interaction between some of those characters. I love the ensemble cast. And like I said, regardless of Dee Wallace's characters, put that aside, the main lead, it kind of wins for me as well in acting. So, Howling.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Dread.
Let me jot down the wow. Chop is howling on all 4 rounds so far.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Wow, what a strange fella. So yeah,
You made me make
I
a
think
decision, damn it, I do, and I still get yelled at.
I think
You're the
despite
last
this-
one to the dance today, so you're the one. You drew the short straw, buddy.
despite the script, I thought the howling, the performances were okay. You know, main
Mm-hmm.
character Karen, yeah, she's a traumatized woman. She played that role fine. You know, some of them were pretty bad. When they get to the when they get to the colony and Marcia shows up, like look like she walked straight out of the set of Conan. And I'm like, we're gonna see that lady naked very soon. Like, you know,
Yes.
damn well she's gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
naked.
80s
She didn't
Bush
get
in there,
that boob
too,
job
so,
for
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was so funny. Like she was just so over the top, pretty bad. Like so.
She's like the wizard priestess. Zamora, you
exactly.
Zamora. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, show me the
Who
boobies.
is this
Right.
woman?
Or that chicken, what was it, Conan the Destroyer. Bambata!
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh my God.
Grace Jones?
Oh man.
It's that blonde chick.
Oh,
Olivia-
oh,
The
yeah,
main- the princess.
Olivia Dabo.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I know
she was a cutie.
Dreadbull.
She was a
Dreadbull
cutie.
had her a few times.
Oh, you know it.
Right in the theater when we were watching. It was like, come on, put it away.
Okay, where was I? So yeah, but
Performances.
like
Speaking
I
of
said,
performances,
despite
Pee Wee
the
Herman.
script, the performances were pretty solid. I mean, overall pretty boring because the script was boring, so it's hard to elevate a crappy writing. American Werewolf in London, like I said, I thought David started off pretty bad. Like there were times when he was in the hospital recovering and he sees his dead friend for the first time who's all messed up and he starts freaking out, you know, and he's like, and the nurse walks in, he's immediately like plants a lip lock on her and 10 minutes later, he doesn't have a care in the world. Like he
because
shifts.
he's banging her in the shower, right?
Yeah, like he just goes from one mood to the other, like, and he goes to their apartment and he's just like making jokes on the bus on the way or on the train and whatever they were riding, subway maybe. And yeah, he doesn't have a care in the world, but
Yeah, because he knows he's getting some. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I guess so, man. That's what it's all about, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was, that might be a script problem too, but I just thought his range showing like emotion, like crying and showing trauma was really bad in the first half. But I thought after he transformed and then when he was freaking out like in the town square there and trying to get the cop to arrest him, like then he was really showing some range. I'm like, okay, this is getting better. And I thought like his acting during the transformation was incredible. Like, man, I was like feeling the pain that he was going through. Thought that was great. And we'll get more into that with memorable scenes and special effects. But so I think he redeemed himself in the second half of the movie. I thought the acting was way better. So yeah, I like the comedy, the banter between him and his friend Jack. That was awesome. The nurse was a fine actress. I thought she did a great job. So I think, yeah, overall, I think I'll give the acting to American Werewolf in London. Despite David's first half performance, I thought he
Came back
saved
for a
it later
second
on.
half, unlike the Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, okay, they need more Davids on their team. Yeah, both movies have some good actors, and both movies have some very pedestrian kind of acting, as well. There are more, I think, more interesting and engaging performances in American Werewolf for me, from the townspeople,
Agree.
even though as trope as they are. I like,
Mhm.
the intensity of the quiet when they walk in. Hey, what's this pentagram or what's
Yeah.
this thing? And it's just like that, like,
Uh,
not to jump ahead to memorable scenes, but that I really like. I really like Jack. I agree. His performance is just over the top, and has some great lines, which we'll talk about. And I love the scene. The other people he kills, especially the two bums, and then the blonde woman, who's just still like really perky and like, hi, bubbling or shaking her head. You should really consider killing yourself. It's just she's staying in this like goofy, bubbly character, like all smiley while her face is all shredded. I just thought, oh, okay. So there are more, and I agree. Zamora, you knew she's going to get naked.
right.
You know,
Instantly.
yeah, it's like, okay, we're going to see this. We're going to see that. Yeah. And Dee Wallace, her performance at the end, I think, she starts emoting, when she's doing the transformation, she starts doing some of that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it switches over to the little tiny scared whatever she turns into, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Little Lhasa Apso.
yeah, something ain't right. Ewok or
A
something.
werepug.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm gonna go performance wise. I'm gonna go with American Werewolf.
All right. So Chop
So
Top was wrong there. So he loses that. So yeah, we've got it even now. Two
what a
rounds for
tie,
each
right?
movie. Yes.
Ooh, yeah, 4 rounds down. Okay, round 5. This is gonna be a good one. And I think this will be a tough one. We have special effects and or makeup. So this covers all areas of special effects and or makeup, and this particular movie has a lot of both. So okay, round 5. Chop Top, let's talk about the special
Mhm.
effects and makeup.
Well, I think I thought it was real cool at the beginning of American Werewolf, where the wolf that attacks Jack gets shot, and I just like the way, as far as the bullet wounds and stuff and everything looked and stuff like that. Of course, the great Rick Baker did the effects on this. The famous transformation scene. I mean, come on, I agree with Dredd and what he was saying. You can really viscerally feel what David's going through on that. It's so intense, so well done. The gradual decomposing of Jack throughout the film. He gets worse and worse as it goes on because it's getting closer to the time where David's going to finally make that transformation. So he's trying to plead with him, hey, you've got to do it. It's the only way. It's going to get worse for a lot of people. That was pretty cool. I mean, he just looked amazing.
Although in the theater he looked pretty bad at that point. Like it looked pretty robotic. He just looked like a puppet,
Oh,
his mouth.
yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
two but prior to that I thought were really good, especially the first scene of when he showed up and was still bloody and shredded and stuff. That was pretty gnarly looking. But yeah, by the time they got into the theater and he was mostly a skull and stuff, it was
I thought
pretty bad.
Great effects also, the murder victims at the theater when they're all telling different ways to kill himself and how they all looked in the different various.
Yeah, the fresh wounds looked a lot better, I thought.
Yeah. I had a little problem with the overall look of the wolf in it, though. It just looked like I don't know, it looked like a big old overstuffed wolf or something. It
kind of looked like a bear, I thought at times.
Kind of, yeah. So I had a little problem with that. Now, on the Howling side, I thought that now Rick Baker's assistant, Rob Bottin, did this because Baker was originally supposed to do the Howling. And obviously Landis got him for American Werewolf. So Bottin took over those duties. I like the hand chopped off, right, the cabinet and all those bladders are going.
That was cool.
Back to human hand.
Yeah.
Another transformation scene in there.
Yeah, we see several transformation scenes in this one.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the one in the movie theater, which is the first one, really.
Yeah. And then we have multiple at the colony.
Yeah.
And
we have an animated one when the Zamora is having sex.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That last shot of that one was oof. bad.
Yeah,
But man, I'll tell you, those werewolves with the practical effects and stuff, they looked amazing.
they look
And
great. They're really scary werewolves.
yeah, and it still stands up to test of time
Yeah.
because I've just watched these recently again. I own the Blu-ray of the Howling, and I just like
you got a Blu-ray collector? Here's my
but
surprise
guys,
face.
I just say, here we go again.
Busting your balls. Yeah.
I know.
Welcome to the club.
But the transformation scene for Connie, the scene at the end where Karen transforms, other than what she transforms into, is pretty cool. Yeah, I just think it's when I had that love making scene, her husband and that when they're turning into wolves initially, not the animated sex partner thing, but when they're first transforming, it's like that was cool. But yeah, guys, man, this was tough because you have a legendary, iconic scene.
They're both great at what they do.
Yeah.
Rick Baker did makeup for The Exorcist. He's done makeup for Men in Black, for the Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, he's done it for everything. Yeah.
But man, I just the look of the wolves, the use of the bladders and the latex and what they're doing, the transformation scenes. I got to give it to the Howling on that one.
Yeah,
I think
Rob
there's
Bottin
more interest. There's more. You see more of the werewolves and the werewolves itself. The main werewolf who's a serial killer, and I like the look of them more. They're very scary. I wasn't scared at all by the werewolf.
It's kind of like the werewolves from the Dog Soldiers borrowed a lot, I think, from this movie. The look of the werewolf. Have you ever seen that, Dreadbull? Dog Soldiers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, guys, goes to the Howling for special.
Yeah, that was a really good chop. You broke it down really nicely there. Yeah. All right, Dreadbull, your take.
Yeah. Yeah, you did break it down nicely because that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think each movie did certain elements better than the other, so they kind of almost balance out. Like, the Howling, when they finally you see like a full transformation scene, I think was during the sex scene right out in the woods. I think that's when in the Howling when we first see like a full transformation happen. The one thing that I didn't care for with that transformation was you didn't see much of the actual like morphing of their bodies. Like, it would show them partially transformed, the camera would kind of pan away, you would come back and they were a little more transformed, but each of those looks were really, really good, but you didn't really see the morphing, whereas in American Werewolf in London, somehow you see his hands stretching out,
right?
Like
his feet.
Yeah, his feet,
everything.
like those are really effective. And I liked the final werewolf form in the Howling was way better, I thought, than in American Werewolf in London. I think the transformation itself was better in American Werewolf in London. But the final wolf, I didn't think was quite as good.
It was like a bulky wolf. It's like a muscular wolf that's kind of roamed around on all fours.
It almost felt like at times when they would show like that quick close up of its face, like right in the camera, it almost looked like they just filmed like a bear or something and did something with a bear. It almost looked like a bear's head. I don't know if they did something with a bear and put some makeup on it and like filmed it and moved the camera. I don't know how they got that effect, but that's what it looked like. So that's a toughie because American Werewolf in London it's all about that transformation scene, and that's some of the best effects ever done as far as that goes. It won an Academy Award. It was the very first makeup Academy Award ever given out. So it's hard to vote against that. So I will say that the sex scene in the Howling, when they finally do finish transforming and they show that shot where you just see their silhouettes in front of the fire, that was so awful.
Yeah.
That was so bad.
This is when they're drawing animation like literally on the cells.
Yeah.
It's just like really.
They would have been better off just not adding that little shot because it only lasted like 1 second.
Yeah, but it's bad. It stands out.
It does. Like, and you kind of ruin this.
It takes away, right? It takes away from that really cool scene otherwise.
So yeah, I think just on the strength of the transformation itself, I got to give it to American Werewolf. That scene was so painful. It was visceral. The sound effects were amazing. you see things stretching and popping, and you know, you hear all that. I thought they did a little too much of the bubbly skin in the Howling. Like there was a little too much weep wop. I kept thinking of
The Little Rascals and that
The
cake
Little
they
Rascals
made.
cake. Weep weep wop.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
weep,
whoa.
wop. Yeah, so that kind of took it on. That kind of detracted a little bit for me. So,
Weep womp. I like
We got to
That was
redo
weep
the
wop.
audio for those songs or those movies and put in our own special effects, sound effects.
That's great.
All right. So again, I am the deciding vote.
You're the decider.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think the Howling does some really, really great stuff. I love the look of the werewolves. I love that first transformation scene because Eddie doesn't like, he's not screaming in pain because he's done this 1,000 times. But it is still very creepy and scary, and the close-ups. I agree also that the bubbling gets a little distracting because it's too much, too fast. The first, when we see David transform in American Werewolf, we see everything. We see the whole torso
Yeah.
as he's like screaming, and it's just out of the blue. He just screams
Yeah.
out of the blue, and he's dropping, and then we
Yeah.
see him like lengthen. He's like laying this really gangly looking, long torsoed creature. We see his feet growing, his hands growing. I mean, his ears. You know, everything changes. And then he just, from that on, we don't see the transformation. But we also have Jack becoming more and more disgusting and falling apart until he becomes a skull where it is quite mechanical.
Yeah.
But we also see the victims. Every other victim is in some matter of decay or flesh torn off. I mean, there's a lot of really good practical effects, and they did not resort to animation or trickery in that resort. So, they're I like the werewolves better in the Howling. I think it is definitely
Me too.
scarier.
And I liked that they showed the full werewolf more
Yes,
often in the Howling.
right. I
And like in
agree.
that one scene where he's like swiping at her, it looked really good,
He's
man.
standing like
It was
it's a full
awesome,
suit.
right.
It's like
Yes.
Alien, like the full body. We see the full creature. Very effective, very scary.
God, this is tough. I almost want to change my this is a tough one.
It was.
So I'm looking at it in totality of all the makeup effects and special effects, because special effects also include the animation, which to me takes it down. It's a negative. I like the concept. The initial part of the concept I thought was great, of them having sex and transforming. That was cool, because when we see it at the animal sides coming out, literally, that's really awesome. But then they ruin it with the freaking cartoon, and like, okay, nope. So that's a deterrent. We don't see a lot of the David Wolf. In a lot of the times, it's just like a body or head or a torso, a couple front legs. So that. There, but we see more practical effects, and we see the decay of his friend and everybody else bloodied. So and D Wallace's transformation is really bad. So because of the negatives, I'm gonna have to go with American Werewolf, although I really like the werewolves better from the Howling. I'm gonna go with American Werewolf here, because I just think that transformation scene is amazing, and there's Jack just looks crazy great as he just continues to decay. And it's just and also the other practical effects in there, the nightmare scenes where he chases the deer and he eats it, and the scenes where the Nazi zombies are they cut the throats and shoot everyone, all the practical effects with the being shot with machine guns. Those are all still practical effects with squibs and
that was hysterical too, when in that dream sequence where
we're not getting into scenes. No, go ahead, good job.
The special effects.
There we go. Thank you.
The Nazi werewolves, but they shoot the mother, and she goes flying like bing, and I laughed my ass off during that. I was like, oh my god, it's comical.
Totally keeping in vein with that. So there were a lot more, I think, practical effects in American Werewolf that called attention to themselves as being very, very done very well, so American Werewolf for makeup. Rick Baker.
All right.
Although Rob Bottin, I mean, he's a fantastic makeup artist. They're both amazing. So All right, that was round 5. So we have what, American Werewolf up 3-2 now?
Up by 1, yep.
Okay. Round 6, we're going to talk about the music, the score, the soundtrack, all those musical notes that are in the movie. So round 6, Chop, take it.
Yeah, as far as the score, I mean, in American Werewolf in London really wasn't much of one. It's pretty sparse. Very like I do know I love the Blue Moon intro music though to the
Mhm.
movie. It's humorous. It's getting you prepared or ready. Hey, this is gonna be a little. We're not taking ourselves too seriously, right? And then of course you can when the transformation scene, Bad Moon Rising by CCR playing. I
Yeah.
thought, you know,
Mhm.
Pretty on the nose there.
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So that was really cool. I also think, but I like the score. I thought it was sparse also in the Howling, except when they get to it's more effective and it gets more turned up a notch when they get to the colony. And I thought it was really used effectively. It really created sense at those moments of dread or in the transformations or when they're in the doc's office and it's going to kill Terry and whatever. Like so, in those moments I thought it was used. I don't know. I like that about it. So because I do like the you know, you're putting CCR in there, you're putting Blue Moon and American Werewolf. It's still not taking itself to
Hmm. It's one
you
of
know
those
too
things that
hard.
helps set the tone, the look and feel of the movie.
Right,
Right from the
right.
bat. Right, exactly.
Um, and I think I'm going to go with American Werewolf on that, just because of that. I like that humorous aspect. I like the way it blows right in with Blue Moon and the rock
Hmm.
down, you know, on the countryside there, and that in the transformated with CCR. It's just like that's brilliant.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Because that's how the
uh,
movie finishes too, right? It goes right back into Blue Moon, right?
at least so, yeah.
Yeah, it goes right back into it.
So yeah, guys, it goes to American Werewolf in London for me.
Okay. Dreadbull.
Yeah, totally agree with the Howling. I thought it was mostly I didn't notice it a whole lot. It did an okay job on the more intense scenes. And in between those, I just really never noticed much happening with the score, any kind of score or anything. So overall, I just don't think the soundtrack did, or the score did much for the movie at all. A little bit here and there. Uh,
Right.
American Werewolf in London, I thought it added a lot more personality to the movie. Like you said, right off the bat with the Blue Moon, like okay, there's a there's a comedic side to this as they're showing this dreary countryside. So and yeah, Bad Moon Rising when he's kind of like waiting, he's pacing around nervously waiting for this transformation. I don't think that's what was playing when he actually transformed. I think there was something else, a different song playing. I remember Lydia walked in and she's like, is that music from this movie?" Like, because it was so weird. It was kind of a weird contrast uh, to the music that was playing when he was transforming, as you're seeing what was happening on the screen. And I don't think it was Bad Moon. Bad Moon Rising was playing when he was like during the day when he was by himself
Hmm.
and he's just kind of
Oh, okay,
going
yeah, he's
around
just
kind of
in their apartment.
nervously
Yeah.
like yeah like oh
Okay.
when's it going to happen
All
you
right.
know
I think there was
uh
something different there. Yeah.
but yeah I just thought the soundtrack added a lot more to American Werewolf in London, added a lot more personality to the movie. I thought it was just pretty basic and kind of utilitarian in the Howling. So yeah, I'll give it to American Werewolf for sure.
That song was Heavy Metal
You have
Thunder,
it?
Blue Moon, Moon Dance, Bad Moon Rising.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know the name of the song that was
Yeah,
playing when
Moondance,
he
I think was
transformed.
Van Morrison, I believe.
Yeah, right. I was just looking at the soundtracks.
Hmm.
Did you
They
guys
don't
notice
say when.
in
Yeah.
the Howling when they're at the colony and they all go out to hunt, and like the first scene of them out hunting, there was like carnival music playing. It was the weirdest thing. Like it
Oh.
sounded like
Wow.
carnival music. I'm like, what
Hmm.
the hell is that? And then they go to somewhere, a different location, and come back to the hunt, and it was gone. It was just
Huh.
like the first little scene of them carrying
I
their
definitely
guns
got,
out to the woods,
yeah,
and
I
there was
gotta pay
like some
closer
weird
attention
carnival
when I,
music playing. It
yeah.
was so odd.
Huh.
Like
I never noticed.
what? Why did they do that? And they didn't even continue it throughout the whole
Yeah, if they've been
hunting
hunting at a carnival,
sequence.
yeah,
It was
maybe.
strange.
Huh.
I
Wow.
gotta pay more attention to that next time I watch it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never knew.
check
Yeah.
it out. Yeah,
All right. Sounds good.
it's kind of goofy.
Huh.
Yeah, I carry with both of you. The music is sparse in this movie. It's effectively sparse because there's so much going on that the music there's no John Williams score or undercoating everything like we hear like in Star Wars or in the other films he did by Steven Spielberg, or Jaws or anything like that. There's no memorable theme, but the use of popular culture music, Blue Moon and Van Morrison and Creedence in American Werewolf, I think is what makes it stands out, because automatically we are seeing these, and they're all these moon related songs. I mean, it is pretty much on the nose, even though the Werewolf's
Very
nose,
much. Yeah.
but it's still part, I think, over the overall tone and the feel of the movie, is that it does announce a little tongue in cheek, like, okay, we're just sit back, we're going to have a good time. This is going to be a fun movie. We're going to be entertained. And it does it really effectively in that regard. This is the music in the intense scenes, like you said, Dreadbull for the Howling, I think is effective. The transformation scene, the first time we see the transformation scene, this is brooding kind of, intense, because we don't know what's going on. As a viewer, you're like, what is going to happen here? This is, kind of creepy. But yeah, other than that, I'll have to watch again for the carnival music, but it wasn't there wasn't much to write home about. So for me, pretty easy. The American Werewolf.
All right.
All right. So after 6 rounds, Dreadbull, what do we have here?
We got 4-2 now. American
Oh.
Werewolf starting to pull away.
All right, in the middle third of the round, American Werewolf has taken the lead. Okay, round 7 is memorable scenes or memorable lines. The things that we have often probably have all spoken, but things that stand out about us that make us, you want to quotable things or things that stand out. So round 7 goes to you, Chop.
All right, guys. Memorable scenes. Obviously, we talked about it. The transformation scene, American Werewolf. That's iconic. I thought another one was that the guy in the subway going up the escalator, and the full werewolf comes into view at the bottom. I thought that was really effective and really brilliant by Landis, the placement of that and stuff. I really like the whole rampaging stuff at Piccadilly Circus when he finally transforms and he gets all the shit going on. People flying through fucking windows, crushed between cars, just total chaos and carnage. That was absolutely amazing. Then we go to the Howling, and I got written down here again. Well, of course, the first beginning, the porn booth scene was very effective because it kind of set up, and Eddie's starting to transform there. The cops finally get there and put bullets into him. And then, in Eddie's apartment, when the other 2 reporters go in there and they see all the drawings and newspaper clippings of all this stuff, wolves and the slaughtered, people, all his victims and stuff, is cool. The scene at Doc's office where Eddie's he's already transformed into a wolf and attacks Terry and stuff. It's just so fucking creepy. It's terrifying. And then I like the whole scene at the county with the barn and everything. And when the other reporter, Chris, comes in to try to rescue Karen, and they all start transforming and stuff. And I just thought that was really effectively done. It's not the shot of 3 wolves standing there when they're driving away, but because I think that was a little animation in that. But overall, that was very memorable. I'm leaving out Jack in the theater. Who the hell could leave out that scene, and with all the other victims and just Jack, all the other times he's in the movie. I think he steals the show in American Werewolf. So, but man, it's tough. This is tough. Oh, the nightmare assault on the family. The Nazi werewolves we talked about. It's hysterical and it's brutal, but the makeup looks fantastic on those werewolves too. Man,
I think a Slayer borrowed that from their look on one of their Nazi helmets. I swear they take it's like a werewolf Nazi. I think Slayer took that.
Yeah, I thought about that too, Montag. That's great. Man, I'm gonna go with the Howling on this one. I think there's for me, there's more memorable scenes for me.
Sure. All right. Nicely done.
Yeah.
An astute analysis, Chop Top. All right, Dreadbull.
Yeah, you pretty much named off all the memorable scenes from both movies. I mean, yeah.
You're gonna talk about the boobies?
With the Howling, right? I mean, that was funny. I mean, yeah, in the theater, Which boobies from the Howling, or for which boobies?
They're all there.
The porn
It's like
movie
you
going
bring
on.
in Steve Martin. Like, wow, look at the tits. I'll bet
Yeah.
there's 57
When
tits.
fucking Bambata transforms, in the Howling, you got to
Yeah,
these things.
yeah, right.
Zamora.
But yeah, the mayhem scene when he bursts out of the theater was hilarious. Like suddenly there's traffic everywhere and cars are going like 50 miles an hour in the city because they can't stop. Apparently, they're just going to keep plowing into each other, and people are
Well,
getting run over
remember
and flying
John
out of
Landis
windows.
did the
It was so
Blues
funny.
Brothers with the
Okay.
biggest car wreck scene ever, just a few years
It was
prior.
just so over
Right.
the
So,
top. and
right, another
ridiculous.
over the top car wreck scene.
Yeah, like Blues Brothers, but with gore.
Yeah,
added
right.
over
People
top
flying
of
out
it,
of their
so.
windows. Seatbelts, kids, safety first.
Yeah, I thought the scene when he was trying to get arrested afterwards, I mentioned that, and like he actually started showing some range, I thought, as a character, as an actor.
Right.
The transformation scene itself, just his acting there, on top of the special effects, was incredible. Yeah, the Howling. I thought some of the scenes where the female reporter that was kind of investigating things was fighting back were really cool. Like you mentioned, the arm getting chopped off, and then that arm kind of transforming back into a human forearm and hand was really cool looking. Like they did a really good job on that. Yeah, the barn scene when you kind of when you find out the whole colony they're all werewolves, and was cool. So yeah, memorable scenes. I think you have to give it to American Werewolf, just on the strength of the transformation itself, on top of the scenes with his dead friend, the mayhem. I just thought there are more scenes that jump into my mind from American Werewolf in London than from the Howling. So yeah, I got to give it to American Werewolf here.
Yeah,
More memorable things happened.
I agree with both of you in that regard. The Howling, the first transformation, we talked about that. It's really great. I love that scene when everyone's turning into werewolves. I didn't even mind the Zamora scene because hey, I wanted to see some boobies. I was 14. What do you want?
They were they were nice too.
Yeah, and the scene where Dee Wallace transforms, I thought was effective at first. When she just begins.
Yeah, when she first
Yes.
starts.
At first, we thought it was a good idea at first, but then American Werewolf, just seeing the slaughtered lamb was great. He made me miss. Memorable lines. That's a great line. Jack, look at me. I'm a walking meatloaf. That's a fantastic line. I love that. The scene in the porn theater, again, we got more boobies and just hysterically bad porn. Yeah, the nightmare sequences, especially the Nazi ones, are great. The transformation scenes. So I do all love in the Howling where the werewolf gets acid thrown on him. I thought that was a really great creepy effect too.
And how Eddie looked afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You see him, right.
Mm-hmm.
There are more memorable things and more memorable lines from American Werewolf. I can't remember one memorable line from the Howling. Although I do like the scene where John Carradine's moaning about, the old generation and how things are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that wire Pekingese. I mean, that's just awful, guys.
It is.
Yeah,
Look at that little
that's not good.
Snub nose.
She's pretty cute though. I think it's what they were going for. A cute little
It's
werewolf.
a cuddly wolf, not a
which is fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Like Anthony Hopkins in The Wolfman. Yeah, that's horrible look on him. But
so funny.
Yeah, I agree, Montag. To that extent, I do. There were definitely more memorable lines. I thought it was kind of funny. I noticed when main character Karen's husband is in the cabin, and in the background it's got Wolf Chili. That's the name of the chili in there and stuff.
Oh,
and then at the
nice.
end, Zamora survives all that shit, and she's at this bar or whatever. And, well, how do you want it, sweetheart? Like that, rare. About the
yeah. Yeah, you knew that was going to be the answer.
Yeah, and so I think it gained a little bit more comedy, near the end of the film. Especially
it was too late by then.
By then it was too late. Yeah, but
They've
yeah,
already blown their load in a bad way.
It was too late.
So
They
I
can't.
agree.
No more dribbles.
I see from both sides. But yeah, that's a good choice, Montag. So
yeah. I mean, these are both good movies. It just if we're doing the Slugfest. You know, we were doing it by scene, but they're both different, very different movies. So, all right. So that was round 7. Round 8, what we're calling Fear Factor, the frights involved in a movie. I mean, horror movies should have some frights, should have some fears. So let's do round 8. Chop Top, take it away.
Okay, for like Fear Factor and stuff. I like the when David and Jack are on the moors, and of course they get attacked. There's this forebodingness around because you can actually sense with them as they're looking around in all distances and where's that howling coming from, that noise, and then of course they get attacked there.
Yeah, they're growing anxiety.
Yeah,
really is palpable. You begin to fear the fear.
Yeah,
Jack,
I think,
David, we're not on the road. It's like, oh fuck, yeah,
right. And then I thought when he's at the theater and he transforms, David does. I thought that was kind of creepy. And then of course when he busts out of there, but there's so much fucking chaos in Piccadilly Circus that you just can't help but laugh. It's more definitely that comedy horror comes out more than the horror element to me. Now, but I look at the Howling, and when Terry is attacked at Doc's office, when she's in that cabin and the other werewolf's busting through there. And
that's
stuff
Karen, right? Wasn't Karen the main character?
No, Terry was when she called upon her and Chris to come up there to help her out because things weren't going right and whatever that. And she starts getting on to this, hey, this county's not all what it seems and stuff.
Right, Terry,
and
yeah.
so
But okay. In the doctor's office though was Karen, wasn't it? Because she threw the acid on him.
Well, that was after Terry got attacked there.
Oh, she also got attacked in the doctor's office? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was in some cabin room or something.
Yeah, because Eddie killed Terry
Gotcha.
when he's fully transformed. And then when Karen goes up there, she discovers Terry's body. And then she goes through it. And she's standing there like, just what amazed me, she's standing there just watching, like not even trying to attempt to run.
It was like one of the slowest transformations. It took him 5 minutes to transform, and she just stood there with her mouth hanging open.
Like, fuck this shit, I'm out, right?
I wanted him to die at that point. Like I was hoping he would go ahead and kill her, like just rip her head right off. I didn't like her as a character. I was so annoyed at that point. Like, please put her out of her worthless misery.
It was fight or flight, and she did neither.
She didn't either. She stood and gawked.
The porn booth.
Freeze and gawk.
The porn booth scene, at first, as we get in the Howling, I thought that was scary. But I didn't, as far as Fear Factor, I thought I was more scared by the Howling than I was American Werewolf. But there's those couple of scenes I think they're just, fantastic American Werewolf. But the Howling wins that one for me for Fear Factor.
All right, very nice. Okay, Dread.
Yeah, I think at least one thing the Howling did better was sort of evoke a sense of dread, a little bit of sense of fear. Like it seemed like American Werewolf, almost every time there was some kind of fear or gore, they added some comedic and a comedic element that took away from the fear or the dread, and obviously on purpose because they did it multiple times where they had these contrasting sort of emotions going on at one time. So but it definitely took away from any sense of fear or dread. I thought, some of the attack scenes. We talked about how good the full werewolf looked in the Howling, and when Terry was getting attacked, and you could see that whole thing rearing up, and it was like 7 feet tall
scary.
And swinging at her. Really, that was pretty damn scary and pretty intense. And like, okay, I don't want her to die. She's cool. So that at least added some tension to that scene. Like, okay, there's a character I would rather not die. So, okay, that's tense. Yeah, Karen in the doctor's office, please just rip her head off. My God, this put me out of my misery at this point.
Yeah, so Dread really didn't like her acting.
Yeah.
I didn't like the script. Her acting was fine. She was acting the way she was supposed to. They just
it's like watching Glitter with Mariah Carey. Put me out of my misery, please.
So I'm gonna give it to the Howling for Fear Factor.
All right.
All in all,
excellent. Yeah.
Better job of evoking some fear at times.
Right. When it comes to straight fear, the Howling has to take it. Although there are terrifying scenes in American Werewolf, but they're more like jump scares in a way. Because the scene when Jack gets attacked in the moors, it's quick. It's just like boom, out of nowhere. does it happen. The nightmare sequences are just truly terrifying. They're short, abrupt, like just go way over the top real quick, and then they cut away.
And sometimes they jump into a scene, like when he starts to
Yeah.
transform in the apartment,
Mhm.
like you jump into him screaming, like instantly.
Right.
You jump.
He was
into that scene of
reading,
him
and then all of a
screaming.
sudden, just like screams, "Oh my fucking God," or whatever it is,
Right.
Jesus Christ. Right, exactly. So it's just like, oh, okay, what's up with this? Right, and then the other attacks are kind of more off camera, even with the wolf vision, point of view thing, but you see those mostly off camera. But we have full frontal when it comes to the Howling, full frontal werewolfism right here. We see the wolves attacking. We see them in their physical form, very much like in Dog Soldiers. They're standing up. They're terrifying. We see their size. We see, we see them as a whole creature, and so there is definitely the sense of fear in evoked and horror evoked in those things. As horrific as American Werewolf is, there's more true horror in the Howling.
If American Werewolf would have done a better job of the full wolf, they did such a great job with the transformation. They never show a good
Great
shot
point.
of the full wolf, and it's all its glory.
Or you see him just from his face as he's going down there. Or,
the full Monty. Bring out the full wolf.
It's a shame. Yeah,
maybe they couldn't have, because they didn't have a guy in a suit. Whereas I think it's the Howling. I don't know if it was a mechanical. If they had a guy in a suit. I don't. Maybe.
Right.
It could have been. It could have been a mechanical. Could have been fully mechanic.
If it was, it looked really good. I thought it was pretty fluid looking.
Yeah, it was probably a guy in a
at her and
suit.
stuff.
My guess is it was a prosthetic. It was a suit.
Yeah,
but they could
really
have
missed
easily
out on-
done that. I agree with you there, Dread.
I don't know if they spent their whole budget on the transformation
Well,
scene
they had a
or
big budget.
other
It was like
things.
17 million or something like that. It was a big budget, and they made like
it's a
10
shame.
times.
as opposed to Howling didn't have a lot. No.
I would love
Yeah.
to have seen a full the wolf and all its
It made like
glory.
62 million, something like that. It was a pretty good success.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
The
So
American Werewolf had 5.8 million budget, 30 million.
Oh, 6
30
million.
million
Okay.
US, 62 million worldwide.
okay, so it's 4 times the budget, and it made about 4 times as much. So so okay, excellent. So where are we at now? What is the score?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-3. So
well,
hate to say American Werewolf is already
American Werewolf. Sorry, we know what's going to win,
Already
kiddies.
already.
But we got round 9, which is rewatchability. We're mulling over. If you have a suggestion what we should do for round 9, let us know. We'd be happy to hear from you. We love hearing from you and all your emails and all your comments on our YouTube channel. Thank you.
We hope you like in this episode. So
That's right. Yeah,
Oh,
Dreadbull brings the horror. Like, hey, that's good, chap. All right, look at that. Took me a while to get that one.
You're welcome.
we just lost subs.
Yeah, we lost. Thank
We
you,
lost 10
chap.
subs.
So round
I
9.
can't do fucking nothing right.
Now you're learning. This is like Pavlov's dog. We're gonna start ringing a bell and make Chop Top feel bad about himself. When you hear the sound, you start crying. Okay. Rewatchability, Chop.
Okay. I think rewatchability. I mean, God, you talk about the memorable scenes, right? But you can't help not talking about them again when you're talking about rewatchability. So, the rampage in London, just fucking love that. Classic practical effects. They still hold up today, really do. It was a refreshing take, I thought, on the Universal Wolfman with a modern twist. Likeable characters, especially David, Jack, Nurse Price. Again, Jack, I think, stole the show. So based on, I got to talk about the Howling too. What did I write here? Okay, sorry.
Pulling a McConnell on us. Mitch McConnell moment.
Yeah.
He just throws up.
Fucking beaker helmet. Anyways, I just rewatchability. I like both films. Man, it's hardcore though because
they're both very different movies. That's the thing. That's what makes it difficult. Yeah.
Man, if you're just walking for just entertainment and popcorn fun and just that transformation scene, you're looking at American Werewolf in London. If you're wanting to go into pure horror, you're looking at the Howling. But man, rewatchability. I mean, I'd watch them both over and over again, but I got to give the hands down to American Werewolf in London.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
Dreadbull.
I hate Karen. American Werewolf in London. Raymond.
We haven't established that yet, viewers.
Oh, all right, that was simple. Yeah, Chop, I really agree with what you say. These are both two very different movies, as we've mentioned before, and depending on the mood that I'm in, if I want a true horror, I'm going to be going more toward the Howling. But generally speaking, I will, given the choice, I'll probably rewatch American Werewolf over the Howling. Just because of there are just, it is an enjoyable movie, and they both do very different things. So I'm gonna have to go with American Werewolf on this one. But yeah, so
Good
and
job.
that's funny. So now we know that Dreadbull hates Karen. So the final tally, Dreadbull, we have a winner. Hold on. The winner is
American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf in
6
London.
rounds to 3.
Yes, wins
Pretty
the very
sound beating.
first. That's very
Pretty
first
sound beating.
Slugfest. Yes, nice. All right,
Wow.
two beats it. Scored us 2-1.
A
Very
bloody match.
nice. Yeah,
Good job, gentlemen.
Dreadbull, it's so wonderful to have you join us for our
Yes.
horror
Well,
shows.
thank you. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, and
All right.
yeah, we can do, Chop Top and I
Yeah,
have seen
Alien.
all kinds of horror movies, and Dreadbull came up with a
Let's
great.
not get carried away now. Let's not get carried away.
But hey,
I'm dipping my toes in.
Yeah, dipping your toes. That's fine.
If you
we'll
come
take
up with
it.
a couple movies that I'm interested in, I'll join you.
Yeah. I
Well,
love
you
your idea.
gave us the
The
next
thing
one.
and- Yep.
Well, you're
You
going to
wanna,
tell them what we're going to do
you
next,
wanna
Chop. The
announce
next horror slugfest. Go ahead, Chop. Since you've been chopping at the bits.
Chopping.
Yeah, this was Dred's idea. It's fantastic for next horror slugfest, and it's Alien versus The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think will be absolutely
Yes,
a blast.
I'm already.
really
I'm
about
excited about that. That's gonna be
Yeah.
difficult. That's gonna be tough.
That's a great choice.
That should be
Yes,
a hell
it
of a
will.
slugfest there.
Yeah, it's like
That'll be
Two big
ooh,
hitters.
These are two
Right.
titans, man. That's
Mhm.
great. So, before we check out, I want to tell you something that's been grinding my gears. I'm gonna pull a little Peter moment, okay? And I told them I would do this because they fucked me. I told them I'm the wrong person to fuck. I ordered some pens from a company called Nordisco. Nordisco. Remember that, kids. Get your hate venom pens out now. And I ordered some pens, and they sent me the wrong pen. Okay. The pen I wanted was very specific, Pilot P2 gel. I love those. My Pilot G2s. It's a lovely pen. It's a lovely pen. And this is what they showed on their website. Like, I want more of these. Well, they sent me something that didn't look like this. It was a Pilot. It was not this pen. I said, I want this pen. They said, well, you have to pay for shipping, return back. I go, no, your website showed this. You gave me the wrong fucking pen. It costs $6 to return. I'm like, fuck you, no. So we'll send us a picture, tell us what happened. I did. A month goes by, I hear nothing. So I called him. I said, hey, is this how you normally treat your customers? Because I never got anything back. And what are you gonna do? Oh, we'll send you a shipping receipt, a mailing label back. I'm like, okay, cool, great. Now they finally listen. It was their fucking fault. They sent me the wrong pen. So I shipped it in. I waited my return, and on my return, they kept the $5.99. Those motherfuckers only paid back $17 from the pens, and they kept the fucking shipping. Fuck you, Nordisco. You're out there. You send some hate letters, some hate metal to Nordisco, and
May
they're
you be
fucking
mauled by a
lying.
werewolf.
So
you
I
sons of
I
bitches.
wrote them a letter. I said, you are fucking lying, cheap bastards, you fucking cunts. So fuck you, Nordisco. I said, I'm going to do this on the podcast. I'm going to put it out there for thousands and millions of people to hear. Fuck you. So there, I'm going to be doing this for the next year. Every episode for the next year.
Great.
You
Get
picked
your
the
rant in.
wrong one to put $6. I'm getting my $6.
It's like Family Guy where Peter goes, no, it really grinds my gears.
Exactly. It's just the idea. It's just the principle of the
That is-
thing. They
that's
fucked
horrible.
up. They
Yeah.
gave me the wrong thing, and they wouldn't.
You want to make it
They
right.
still
Yeah.
wanted me to pay for their mistake. This is not how you do business, motherfuckers. So there. Fuck you, Nordisco.
Yeah, fuck them.
All right. Well, I feels better. Until next week, when I go back again, you're gonna hear it for the next year, kids.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah.
Hey,
Here we
guess what
go.
grinds my gears this week?
On this episode of Heavy Metal Horror, Montag's going off in another fucking rant.
I could for Mrs. Montag got screwed over by a company, but we'll save that for another time.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, I
see.
said, oh, you picked the wrong people. Hey, you can find Heavy Metal Horror Podcast on Unsane Radio. Listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. On our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. If you're watching, that's where you're at. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Chop top.
Reggie.
You've been watching and listening to Bring Up the Horns, Reggie.
Heavy
Metal Horror. Fuck you, Nordisco.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.